A significant severe weather event is forecasted across the upper Midwest on Monday, with that carrying over into Tuesday across Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. The time is 8 a.m., not exactly on the dot, but close enough, and April 26th is the day. Welcome to another update for Great Lakes weather, and again, this is definitely something worth rolling out a video about because this is going to be probably a significant day across portions of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. And then I think it's probably going to continue into the region that I typically chase in, southern Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio on Tuesday. So there's a lot to talk about with this video. We're going to be diving into a few models, and there's still quite a few variabilities with some of the models. So don't take it at face value, I guess you could say, because we will address those variabilities and kind of get a rough idea of how things are going to unfold. So let's begin with the SPC's official forecast, okay? So what we have here, again, moderate risk for severe weather across portions of Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. The first moderate risk, day 3, for this region since 2011. So it's been about 14 years since they've had an outlook this far out at a moderate risk level. So that's, again, a day 3 moderate risk since the past 14 years. So it's something you're going to want to watch and pay attention to. That's all I'm going to say. Enhanced risk for portions, for pretty much surrounding regions and then areas to the south. You can see the Upper Peninsula is included in this, Western Upper Peninsula. So again, you're going to want to watch for severe weather on Monday afternoon. And then it also extends even into portions of the Eastern Upper Peninsula and portions of lower Michigan and northwest Indiana. So again, broad region that is going to see severe weather on Monday. And the severe weather threats, pretty much the focus point, I guess, for severe weather is going to be very large hail and even the potential for some strong to intense tornadoes as well as damaging winds. So there's all the factors are at play with this setup, all the hazards. So this is a day to watch, Monday. And let's see at the probabilistic level, you can see 45% risk for severe weather across this region, with the hatch region indicating the potential for significant severe weather within 25 miles of a given point within that little oval or squiggly that's drawn there. So that's something you're going to want to be aware of, and this outlook will likely change over the next couple days as well as we get closer to the event. But this day bears probably more watching than quite a few of the days we've had in this region in the past several years. So going to want to watch it carefully. Now let's go to day 4. We're going to talk about Monday a little more, keep that in mind, but we're going to also talk about Tuesday. Tuesday is definitely still variable. There's still a lot of things at question, particularly with timing, and also a lot of what's going to happen on Tuesday is going to be influenced on what happens Monday. So you see that the SPC has outlined a 15% risk across southern Michigan, the entire state of Indiana, and the entire state of Ohio. Where do I think I'm going to be chasing? Well, as of right now, as we'll look at the models later, southern Michigan, Tuesday, in northern Indiana, northwest Ohio, that's going to be the primary time where we'll see the storms during daylight, and that will be the initiation for severe storms during that day on Tuesday, based on what I'm seeing now. So that is for Tuesday. So you can see it's a broad region, but I think the focus point of severe weather is going to be around this area that gets closer to the low. So we're going to keep that in mind as we consider this outlook. Now, as we go through this, as a reminder, raw model data is what we're looking at today, and it's going to change quite a bit. Timing, location, severity of storms is all going to change with the next few model runs that come out. So don't take these at face value. Rather, take them as just a signal that there is going to be potential for severe weather. Okay. You can't just look at one sounding and be like, yeah, that's definitely what's going to happen, because it's probably not. It's probably going to change a little bit. It may be close, but there's going to be changes. And especially still that we're dealing with 3 days to 4 days out, that's why we have to keep in mind that there's going to be changes. So let's take a look at the model outputs here for the outlook. Okay, so this is the CSU MLP, and what it does, it actually takes a conglomeration of several different model outputs, several different forms of model data, and then it uses it to create its own severe weather outlook. And so this model, based on the variables it is seeing in the atmosphere, based on all the data that it has to project future outcomes, this is what it puts out. So you can see over here on the right side, we have hail probability. You can see there's a little bit of shade of pink there. There is potential for some decent hail with this. Again, you're going to have a lot of lift, you're going to have a lot of shear, and you're going to have a lot of driving factors for hail as well as tornadoes. You can see it's a 15 to 30% risk, with the max probability being at 20% across portions of northeastern Iowa. So that area is being shown by this model output that of the primary focus point for severe weather. The wind probability on the CICMLP is a little bit lower, which is interesting. I think it'll probably be a little bit higher on the SBC's model outlook, but on the SBC's official outlook. But you can see that it is putting out a signal for all severe hazards. And as we get into Tuesday, day 4, similar scenario with the severe weather output. It's much less than areas out west, but there's still a decent signal for severe weather of a 30 to 45% risk for northwest Ohio in particular. So again, you can see kind of where this curvature exists on the outlook for all severe hazards. And again, this doesn't specify any severe hazards, but comparing it to the SPC, it is pretty much on point with what the SPC is projecting as well. So you can see that I think convective initiation will begin across portions of southern Michigan on Tuesday. That might shift a little bit. It might shift a little bit to the east. It might even shift a little bit further to the west. There's a lot of model variabilities we're going to look at. But I do think southern Michigan, north Indiana, northwest Ohio is my target area Tuesday, starting at around probably 1:30, 2 o'clock. So that's kind of what we're going to keep in mind. But potential is there for all severe hazards. I do see tornado potential in this area on Tuesday. Now, let's get to the models. So you have the Euro model. Again, we're going to look at Monday first, because again, there's going to be a lot of people affected on Monday, and the Great Lakes region is also included in the hazard zone for Monday. And then Tuesday, we're also going to focus on as well. We'll look at both of them. So let's get started with the Euro. And again, there's going to be some rain showers associated with the lifting warm front with this low. As we get into Monday, you can see that these are some warm front associated storms. You get a sounding out of these storms that are approaching portions of Minnesota. It does show marginal tornado potential, but I do think those storms will not be too big of a deal, especially since you have cooler air and you don't really have the warm front fully lifted into the area by this time. But as we get into the afternoon, watch what happens. 18Z, you got some cells initiating across portions of Iowa and Minnesota, and the Euro does depict a little bit of a drier atmosphere initially. You can see that there's a pretty large gap between the dews and the temperatures. You can see kind of that gap there. That's going to change likely based on the Euro model as we get into the afternoon hours. You can see some models are hinting at the potential for a QLCS line, whereas some others are showing some more discrete supercells, which again, if cells remain more discrete, that's where your tornado potential significantly goes up. With QLCS, there is still decent potential for tornadoes, especially in the environment that is projected. However, QLCS lines are more favorable for damaging wind type setup. But let's take a look at a sounding out ahead of this line that develops. PDS Tor sounding. This actually is a very decent sounding for tornado potential. You can see you got steepening lapse rates, you've got very strong speed shear, and you have decent directional shear present with this as well. Cape values of 2,500, SRH close to 300, which again, that is a signal for quite a setup for strong tornadoes. You can see the sounding analogs are pretty much, there's quite a few matches for supercell potential. Your curvature in your hodograph is a very solid curvature. This is a pretty, I guess, amped tornado sounding from the Euro. So that is again why the SPC is sounding the alarm on severe weather potential for this area, because the models are really hinting at it. And you'll take a look at some other models with this as well. GFS also follows suit with this potential. It doesn't really show the reds and yellows that some places are seeing, or that the Euro model shows, but it does show those storms convecting in northeastern Indiana. A little bit faster than the Euro, but again, another PDS Tor sounding, which still looks quite good. And the curvature's still there. Your 3 cape's pretty low, which is interesting, but your cloud bases are low, strong directional speed shear, lots of cape present, and just 500 cape in a strong sheared environment like this is capable of tornadoes, but you have 2,800 cape. So high cape, high shear setup, definitely capable of tornadoes. Progressing forward, you can see those storms will continue eastward. They might even make it into Michigan during the morning, while less severe, still might pack some severe potential. The GFS says no, but progressing forward, the GFS shows actually a little bit of a southward trend, which is interesting. I don't know if that's going to remain, because other models are generally showing more potential further to the north. However, tornado potential does still exist with wherever this thing positions on Tuesday, and the SBC is hinting that as well. So we're going to watch that, keep that in mind. It's going to be an interesting setup for Tuesday, and how Monday plays out is definitely going to have a lot of influence. Euro for Tuesday, if we go forward, you can see the cells make their way through. This is around 4 a.m. on Tuesday in Michigan. Progressing forward, you can see that Euro is very weird. I'm just going to say it's kind of weird because it doesn't really want to say that there's going to be anything convecting on Tuesday, which I pretty much disagree with on a very large scale. It definitely plays things a little bit differently than what I would expect it to. But it still does play out the potential for a severe setup. However, the setup on the Euro is definitely on the downward trend compared to what other models are saying. And I don't know how much I buy the Euro's outlook for this. So we're just going to keep that in mind as we go through. But it might change. Again, there's still potential for it to verify the Euro, verify the GFS. There's a couple models, though, that do show some interesting stuff. And again, RFS is one I like to look at. It's an experimental model, but it has been pretty much on point with some setups. And now it's loading 84 hours out. It's gotten an upgrade. Woohoo! So we're going to take a look at the RFS real quick and get a look at what it's thinking for Monday. So Monday, again, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa. Progressing forward. You've got cells convecting, and it's actually showing a bit of a discrete mode initially, and also a later convective initiation, which, again, would be rather interesting to see what happens if that takes place. But the RFS shows an amped environment for severe weather. Very strong directional and speed shear. SRH values getting close to 360. This sounding is amped across Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. So again, if that cap sticks in place and storms eventually break through the cap later on the afternoon hours, you got Cape values close to 3,000 with high directional and speed shear. Whew, that is quite a sounding with a very nice curvature in there. So, wow, that's interesting. But progressing forward, you can see that the RFS doesn't really, it shows those discrete cells in Iowa, Wisconsin, but in Minnesota, you also have it right along that low. Progressing it, you can see that it still shows that Tor sounding. It's cooler, and it's a little bit more elevated, but it still shows a nice environment for severe weather there, with pretty much quite a few of the ingredients in place you need for tornadoes. But it shows also convection forming across northern Wisconsin, going into the Upper Peninsula, which again, Upper Peninsula is under the gun for severe weather. I'm guessing probably under the form of damaging winds, because you'll quickly lose instability once it goes north of that warm front, and it'll generally start to go elevated. But as we go forward, you can see those storms may not even do anything in Michigan but in the morning hours, we're going to want to watch where that cold front sets up, because wherever that cold front sets up is going to be what we watch for a convective initiation later on in the afternoon. So Cape values do build based on the RFS for Tuesday. And if we go into the severe weather, ingredients, we look at surface-based Cape, it's going to be a tough guess where it's going to set up, because the big thing we're watching is where does that cold front set up in time for convective initiation. And what the RFS is showing is by 2 o'clock, it's setting up right over St. Joe County, which is going to probably be my starting point right around 1:30, 2 o'clock for convective initiation. We'll just follow that cold front, that initiation point, eastward as we get into the afternoon and eventually into the evening hours. Supercell composite values, again, generally are not super high on the RFS, but again, it's only 2 o'clock at this time. We don't have another output to go further than this time frame, which is why I'm just going off of this. SIG-TOR parameters, we take a look at those. They're focused more across portions of southeastern Michigan, northwest Ohio, which again, not really surprised there. Your surface-based Cape hodograph combo, you can see your hodographs still exhibit that curvature, but your Cape values are in the 3,000s. And with the amount of shear that we're going to have present, you got a nice strong mid-level jet. You got a decent low-level jet as well, and then your upper-level jet is kicking too. So the combination of high Cape, high shear, definitely a contributing factor to this severe weather potential. Your bulk shear values Again, you have bulk shear around 30 to 40, combined with the different wind changes in the upper levels will contribute to some interesting stuff taking place. So, gonna watch that carefully. It also shows that more supercells form on the southern side of things, but we'll want to watch that and see how things unfold later on. The NAM also being quite bullish with the Michigan setup on Tuesday. We'll take a look at Monday's setup on the NAM this morning. You can see that for the 21Z, it doesn't really, it shows the convection occurring later. Again, the NAM's like that though. The NAM likes to be later than the other models. I don't know why that is, but still. And it's also showing the shear being way down, which again, NAM being NAM, we know what the NAM likes to do. But as we go forward into Tuesday, I don't know if 12Z is out yet, but this is the environment again. Similar time frame as the RFS, 2 p.m. It shows again a robust environment for severe weather. The storm relativity values are lower. Cape values are around 3,000 according to the NAM, or over 3,000, which again is quite decent. And lapse rates on the NAM are way up high, which again would be contributing to lots of lightning and potentially some decent hail. So, as you can tell, we've looked at 4 different models, looked at 4 different setups. There's a lot of differences. Key difference here is timing. Some of the models, again, the globals, are shifted south and east, across portions of southern Indiana, portions of Ohio, whereas the more, I guess, closer range models are further to the west. So the question is, who's right? RFS says it's going to start right over portions of southern Michigan, southeastern Michigan, northeast Indiana, northwest Ohio. I think that's probably going to be the case, but that's just my opinion. I'm not sure how things are going to change. The models are definitely going to change over the next couple of days, but all that to say, Monday, you're definitely going to want to have a severe weather plan. And again, best place to be when a tornado warning is issued is in the interior room on the lowest floor of a building. That is the safest place. You're not going to want to be by windows. If you are outside, caught outside when a tornado comes, you're going to want to find a ditch, someplace that is low and the wind cannot pick you up, which again, that is something that could be the case with these systems. Large hail is expected, so if you see it again, that's definitely the potential to damage some siding on some houses, break some windows, even also damage your vehicles. So hailstorms are going to be an issue to watch out for. Not sure how big the hail is going to be just yet, but hail's going to be an issue. Damaging winds, also present potential. I think that focus will pretty much be widespread. Models don't really follow with that, but I do think the tornado potential is one to be concerned about. Strong to intense tornadoes across Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa. Definitely want to have a severe weather plan. A way to receive weather alerts. I bet you there will be some chasers out there. I will not be out there on Monday. However, this day is going to be quite a day across portions of Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. Tuesday, definitely another day to watch with severe weather plan in place. Again, probably not as robust as Monday. And with timing and location concerns, there's still some things to be trimmed out. But I'll be chasing. If it sticks to its guns and the fact that it's going to be more of a westward play, which I think it will. I think southern Michigan is going to be my primary initial target. And then I will drop south, drop east, maybe even start in Van Wert. We'll see. You guys know how much I love Van Wert. But that's going to be something I'm going to be watching out for quite carefully. So again, severe weather plan in place. Michigan storm chasers will probably be live during the time that it's in Michigan. And then Indiana weather online. And then the Ohio Storm Chaser Network also as well will be active probably if this goes through during that time frame. So, I think I've pretty much covered all that needs to be covered for this current time. Wow, 19-minute video for this. Whew. You guys have a lot to watch. But make sure to subscribe and stay updated. I am a live storm chaser for portions of southern Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. I also chase alongside Michigan Storm Chasers if you know them. I'll continue to provide updates as needed. Probably provide my last update maybe Monday morning and Monday afternoon for the setup that we are going to have for much of this region. So definitely a day worth watching. Hoping to have a crew with me on Tuesday. It'd be nice. It'd be a lot easier to do things. So thanks for watching all. Please be safe Monday, Tuesday. Keep your eyes